I welcome you all to our podcast with Dr. Ismail. And our approach is to bring you the understanding how to manage the challenges, business complexities, and business challenges in the present time. Before I go into that details, let me introduce my setup. PM Strategist Corner entity, which is primarily a professional entity to provide business support services to the businesses to move effectively in the present time and all time to come. And for that, I'm lucky enough to have a good strength of professionals working with me and providing me all the support. And in that perspective, Dr. Ismail is also part of it. Uh, my name is Muhammad Aslam Mirza. Assalamu alaikum. I am practitioner of strategic project management, and presently it is held with the AI leverage PM Strategist Corner. That is the advancements I'm trying to make and helping businesses to move on. And the endeavor is again to help the businesses to move effectively and courageously and with the confidence. So before I go into the details of the podcast, let me ask Dr. Ismail to briefly share his profile so that you know who you are going to learn from. Dr. Ismail, please.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good morning. My name is Dr. Muhammad Ismail. I hold a PhD, which was done from Spain. I also am a postdoctorate in management of artificial intelligence. My primary work in artificial intelligence started with a firm in Miami, where I helped in developing of AI-based robots and medical softwares that were powered by artificial intelligence. Subsequently, I've been working with government of Sweden, helping them in implementation of AI in the healthcare. My area of expertise remain in human AI collaboration, the future of human AI team working, and the gender perspective of AI. Apart from my research, I'm also a practitioner, and I head the AI division of QBS, which is around 7 different countries, basically, spanning from USA, UK, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Estonia. So I lead a couple of products which range from robotic process automation to computer vision to machine learning and large language models. We help rigorously automating different organizations spanning from medical, health, manufacturing, and retail. So that goes my background, and thank you very much for having me over here.
Thank you, Dr. Ismail. Very nice. So strong and heavy profile and exposure you carry. I'm sure the participants will learn from you, and the topic you are going to share and support is the AI augmentations for human competence enhancements for managing business complexities and present time complex uncertainties. So that's the very relevant area, and I'm sure it will be a great favor to us to learn from you and to see that how things can move on with your participation and to help on the prospective participants to learn from you. Uh, Here, essentially, I would like to take you to the advancements with the PM Strategist Corner, which is essentially helping the businesses with the approach of PI. PI is powering the innovation economy because the present time is all about innovation. So the economy is very much dependent on the innovation, and innovation needs in the present time particularly the AI augmentation for enhancement of human competence and performance. So this PM Strategist Corner is helping out the businesses with the power of project management and the power of global different perspective. Why global different perspective? Because the support I'm getting from the experts are from the global, and their perspective adds to the solutions we develop for the businesses. So that is the beauty of PM Strategist Corner advancements. And with that, let me bring you the understanding that how we will go about. Essentially, we are going to talk about the complexities, business complexities of the present time, and the uncertainty which is prevalent with the change and with the disruptions in the present time. And in that way, especially helping the CEOs and business leaders to move on in these strategic directions, and helping them to manage everything with the force and with the confidence. And there will be I'll be asking two questions to Dr. Ismail, and those questions will be relevant to the present scenario and to your interests. So let me bring your understanding what the area of business complexities I have tabulated out here. These are spelled out in four areas. Those are external, internal, operational, and strategic. And in all these four areas, the requirements and the advancements are challenging. And I'm going to talk about these in general, and asking Dr. Ismail how he thinks that things should take place, and how he thinks that things have been taking place. So, in this perspective, let me go for the first question to Dr. Ismail, that what he feels and what he thinks that the best approach he has been helping out to the businesses and to the government he has been working with to manage these business complexities. How he has been successfully managing all this. Dr. Ismail, please.
Thank you very much. And I really appreciate the slide that you have on right now, and how you have laid out or distinguished between the external and the internal and the operational and the strategic challenges, basically. And even if this slide was not present over here, I would have loved to start by talking about the external challenges, actually. So first of all, we need to understand what are these challenges that the businesses are facing. Then we can dissect them, and then we can try to answer how to solve those challenges, right? So let's go back to the era of COVID, or even before that. What happened? There was suddenly a disruption everywhere in the world. Before that, the world was a global village. People were able to travel. There were certain countries that were attracting good, smart people from all over the world. So the rate of innovation was quite high. Suddenly, COVID hit. What happened? Traveling became very difficult. So people were stuck where they were living. They were not able to travel so much. So what did the companies do, or what did these larger organizations that are macroeconomic countries, what did they do? They tried to take advantage of these technologies, basically. So the innovation that was completely in the hands of human beings earlier, that was being co-developed by technologies. And that is when the revolution started. And that is when we saw this entire technological shift, people working from home, and then a lot of innovation being taken place. Although much of the innovation was taking place in the medical area, however, this innovation does not rely or stay or is contained into one area. It always moves from one area to the other, and there are a lot of learnings that take place. So, for example, all these AI models that were developed basically to help the scientists come up with these medicines, suddenly they became part of the life. As soon as the COVID ended, and as soon as a lot of people started accepting these technological shifts, what started happening? The cost of production of these technological elements, which is the hardware of the technology, it became a little bit cheaper, and it became more accessible. In terms of gaming PCs, in terms of gaming laptops, the hardware became more potent. Now, suddenly, when the hardware became more potent, it was easily feasible for people to run larger, more complex calculations, more complex algorithms on their local machines. And then suddenly, we saw a shift from the west to the east. What did that do? That enhanced innovation much further. Now, the era that we stand in right now is very competitive. The east is competing with the west right now. There is also, at the same time, there is also a war taking place, the war that started in the Ukraine. So as you might also notice that there is a lot of innovation that is taking place because of the war as well. Because, for example, where I live in Sweden, there is a lot of micro innovation that is taking place because of the pressure of the war. The government is in the pressure to prepare themselves. So this pressure is also leading them to prepare and to be more innovative and be more agile. Similarly, cases like pandemic and the COVID is also making people vary, or the governments vary. And they all are preparing, and they all are preparing themselves technologically and in terms of the innovation for any next challenge or the next pandemic. Similarly, the innovation to keep up with this innovation, China has been on the forefront, not only developing cars, for example, developing lithium batteries, for example, but developing algorithms. So first we saw OpenAI model in the Western side, and then suddenly China came with the DeepSeek model just to compete with that. So those are some external factors that we are looking into right now, and those at one end are some positive changes, but they are actually the cause of disruption as well. Now, at a macro level, these disruptions cause these small businesses or these medium organizations or the organizations that have nothing to do with the pandemic, or they have nothing to do with the military technology. However, they're also forced to be part of this race now. So, for example, a textile firm in Pakistan now has to keep up with the parent company or their uh, buyers in Sweden, because Sweden is becoming more technologically advanced. And since they are the largest buyer, they force their suppliers who automatically are in Pakistan to be more technologically advanced because they want to keep up with the standards. So, directly or indirectly, all these elements have some contribution to play behind this entire uh, change that is coming into play right now. Suddenly, when also there is a lot of change taking place in the Middle East in terms of the war, these countries are also forced to keep up with the technology. It could be surveillance technology, it could be technology for the drones, it could be missile technology. But ultimately, as I mentioned before, technology does not remain in one container. It's always spilled into the other sectors. Military being a very well advanced technology, but it's always replicated. So, for example, right now we see a lot of technology that is being developed in the drones. The same technology is then replicated into autonomous cars, for example, and then for commercial use. So the perspective is very important to understand, and that is why I appreciate this slide that you have created over here, specifically starting from the external challenges that have actually created this disruption. And that was very important to understand in order to answer the question that what is actually the disruption, and only then we can answer how to cater to that disruption. uh,
Very, yeah, very right. Very right. You have very correctly said so. Yeah, please go ahead.
Uh, then coming to the second point that you have, internal challenges, right? So
Yeah.
now we have a bit of understanding of what external challenges are we looking into. Then we look into the internal challenges. And the first one, the first point that you have mentioned over here, that is talent acquisition and retention. That is absolutely correct. And let's link it back to the point where I said that the world is a global village. It is much easier for people to travel, much easier for people to display themselves on LinkedIn or on social media, or connect with employers that are not just in Pakistan, for example, or they're not just in the USA, for example. So it is much easier for people to move around, and the organizations, of course, because they need to keep up with this innovative challenge and the need to be innovative. So say they are not looking only for the resources in the micro areas or the local areas. They're looking for resources beyond their requirements or beyond their geography. So they're looking for resources in other countries. Now, of course, some of the countries are able to attract a lot of resources, but at the same time, there are some countries that are losing the resources at the same time. So what happens to them? How do they stay innovative? How do they stay ahead of this entire realm of innovation and technological change? Because the smart people are the people who adopt and who accept the change. And these are the people who are leaving one country or the other and going for economic benefits or other benefits to another country. Then what happens to the organization or the country that they leave behind, for example? You understand? Definitely it's creating a lot of challenges. At the same time, a lot of companies do want to accept these technological shifts and do want to accept these technological changes. However, unfortunately, because uh, smarter people are being attracted, or they like to work more with the smarter people or the or like-minded people, that is creating a lot of challenges for the organizations right now. The second challenge is, of course, there is a huge gap between the generations, the millennials, the Gen Z, and now the Gen Alpha. There is a lot of difference in them, right? The younger generations are much apt to the technologies. They're born with them. They know very easily how to navigate through YouTube, or they know very easily how to navigate through artificial intelligence models, or how to question them, how to prompt, basically. But it is still a struggle for the people who are in their mid 30s or mid 40s on how to prompt and how to create a report using AI, as in as a secretary, for example, or how to use it to enhance the productivity, for example. So it is creating kind of isolations within the organizations itself. So there is one generation which is very much into the technology, and there is another generation working in the same organization that is very uh, resistant to the change. So how do you tackle them? Just today, I was having a meeting with one of the biggest aviation companies in Pakistan, and they're suffering the same challenge, basically. So they have an entire range of top managers who are very resistant to change, and then there is entire chain of these younger staff who are very much curious and very much open to accept those technologies. So how to create a bridge between these two generations within the same organization? That is absolutely a real challenge over here. Now, I'll quote my example. Whenever we go for digital transformation within any organization, we primarily talk about three pillars of transformation. So the transformation map is true for a company, it is true for a country, or it is globally true. Uh, the fundamentals always remain the same. The three key fundamentals: your hardware, the capacity to run that technology, the processes, whether your processes actually support that technology or not, and finally the people. Are the people ready to accept that technology or not? And you'll be surprised to know that most of the time it is the people who fail the technological projects. In fact, there was a research done by Adobe which said that more than 70% of technological or digital transformation projects fail because of the people. McKinsey said that by 2030, countries will have to invest heavily on the people side of the change. So the people side of the change is actually very, very important. And that is where the change starts from. So you're absolutely right on writing on how people actually derive the change, and how the change is driven is, of course, through a cultural shift that is within the organization. That is always top down. It is propagated by the top management. They initiate the change, and then there is a need between amongst the people, or the drive to accept that change, basically, so that they can carry forward that strategy. But everybody has to be aligned with that strategy, right? Everybody has to be aligned with the goal of that organization. Otherwise, if people have divergent goals, that digital transformation project will fail for sure. There is another theory which is called the crab theory. And in 1991, I believe, there was a scientist who was observing. So what he did was he put one crab into the bucket just to observe what does this crab do. And the crab climbed out of the bucket. Just to repeat the test again, he put five crabs at the same time in the same bucket. Now, instead of coming out, all the crabs were busy pulling the other crabs down. Now, what does that mean? What happens is sometimes there are bad fishers within the organization, or people who do not want to change. So the people who are actually trying to change, they bring them down as well. Or the people who are propagating change, they bring them down. Instead of bringing themselves up or having this positive competition, they start bringing them down. Then there is another, we call it FOBO, fear of being obsolete. That is another fear. And because of this fear, instead of accepting the technology, they resist it all over. They even resist it from the gates of the organization. They do not let it in because they fear that they will be replaced or they will become obsolete because of this technology. Then there is another very interesting fact that while I was carrying research, I have one of the publications in Technovation, which is a quite prestigious journal. And in that paper, I kind of established that sometimes it is your friends who keep you behind. And why do I say that? Okay, so there is a social capital theory. And that theory explains that when you're part of a group, so you try to replicate that group or you try to follow that group. So if the group leader, it could be you or it could be someone else in the group. If that group leader has already made his or her mind that they will not accept this technology, you being part of that group will also accept and acknowledge that decision, and you will resist that change as well. So again, how do we change and how do we take over this challenge? So I had a lot of discussion with a lot of people in the organizations, with the different departments, people from finance, people from the IT, people, the business users. But ultimately, the answer came from the human resource department. Basically, earlier, the IT used to be the driver of the change within any organization. But now, since the technology has become so rapid and it's constantly changing, so I believe now it has become the responsibility of the human resource actually to derive the change within the organization and to derive the technological shift within the organization. Why do I say that? Because they are now responsible for constant development of the people and constantly allowing them to open the doors and accept the technology. So they being the drivers, and now even yesterday I was reading an article from PwC. They said that human resource has again come into the center or has become the nucleus of the organization because of the AI transformation that is taking place within the organizations. Then, of course, very well written, you have some operational and strategic. So before talking about them, I would like you to say a few words, and then we can, have some sparring done over there as well.
I think you noticed my smiling.
Yes.
In fact, very right. In fact, you have very rightly noticed it, because now the time has come where the smart organizations are looking for the AI augmentation, um, for the human resource uplifting or human resource competence building, because
Yes.
that is the area which really helps out to enhance the competence and performance of the humans. So in the operations, definitely the challenges are needs to be met with, and that may happen only with the augmentation of artificial intelligence. Your views definitely will matter.
Uh, Now, this word that you use, augmentation, that is very interesting word, right? So I just for the sake of the audience, I would like to distinguish between this word, and this is a very important word, especially in AI transformation. So there are two keywords actually. One is complete automation, and the second one is augmentation. And you rightly pointed out it's augmented. The right way is augmentation. But let's talk about both. Let's talk about entire automation, and then let's talk about the augmentation. What is complete automation? Complete automation is, for example, a water pump, like autonomously working on a job. There is no need of human in the loop, completely doing end-to-end job autonomously. So that's complete automation. If we look in realistic terms, specifically in the business terms, there are very few tasks that can autonomously be given to the machines. Most of the times, there is some sort of criticality involved in that process that cannot be 100% given over or handed over to a robot or to a machine, unless it's a paint job, for example, in a production facility, or it's just a job to fasten a nail, for example, or fasten a screw in the body. But when it comes to critical decision making, for example, or even automating a process as simple as bank reconciliation, for example, receiving a bank statement, parsing the data automatically through a large language model, extracting the correct information, and then posting it directly into the SAP. It sounds very nice, right? Until, imagine one day the machine makes a mistake of reading 10 million as 17 million, or 17 million as 10 million. That is where the things will break. That is where the pipeline will break. So the question over here is to ask, to what extent do we need automation, or to what extent do we need augmentation? So the answer lies in two things. First, ROI. ROI is return on investment. So each time you implement a technology within your organization, there is an investment that needs to be made, right? So first of all, you have to evaluate, because it's kind of an investment. If you remember earlier, when we used to study finance, for example, in our degrees, so we used to study this model of NPV and IRR, and we used to see that all the investment that the organization need to make, whether there is a return for that investment or not. Now the investments have become micro. However, there still are investments. So we must evaluate them, right? So, so imagine you're automating a process that costs $100,000, but the entire money that you're able to save out of that is just a few $1,000s. Why would you automate that, right? So why would you kill a fly with a cannon? That's what I always say. So you have to distinguish. And even AI, there's a lot of difference in the fad and the reality. So the fad is, let's do AI. But the reality is, do we have enough infrastructure to actually reach AI? So for example, let's take a step back and let's see if our processes are automated enough to collect the data autonomously from the machines or from any input source, for example. Do we have enough sensors, let's say in a manufacturing facility? Do we have enough sensors installed on our manufacturing line that can collect the data autonomously and then feed that data into the ERP systems? And then ERP systems feed that data into the analytics. And then these analytics provide bases or the grounds for the AI to compute or to forecast. If one of the chains is missing over there, or one of the links is missing over there, then your AI is good for nothing, right? Then there are some fallacies also involved over here, because there is a fallacy, first of all, about simplicity. So a lot of people think of AI as just an umbrella. They use the term AI for everything. However, AI is an umbrella term, and there are multiple other technologies working under this umbrella. They could vary from machine learning, they could vary from large language models, they could vary from computer vision. So what do you actually want in your organization? What is that you want to achieve in your organization? And that will answer what kind of technology is needed. Now, even in the machine learning, there are multiple different models, right? Those are running on different statistical models that are built for different jobs. Not all machine learning models can do one job, and not one can do all of the job. So each one has a different job, and that is prepared for something else. So how do you distinguish between that? How do you decide that? So again, you have to take a step back and think to yourself, am I following a fad, or do I really need it? And if I really need it, what do I need it? So you need to understand the processes very well. Again, I'll refer back to our practice, basically, of digital transformation or AI transformation. If the organization is not able to jot down the processes very wisely or very clearly, if you cannot break down your process and tell me exactly how you carry out a job, it will be very difficult for me to automate that process. So first of all, it is now required more than ever that the business users have to be smart enough to lay down the process just like a consultant. Only then they can tell what is needed to be automated within that process, and what can still be done by the human being or being in the loop. There is a study that I have carried out recently in Sweden, where I wanted to test how would a future team would look like. And in that team, what I did was I gave three humans an AI agent as a companion within that team. And then I made another team. In that team, I made the AI the leader of that team. I just wanted to see how people react to that. Uh, Making one AI agent the leader of the team and the other AI agent just as the companion of the team. Now, what interesting results we found out through this study were that people who have a lot of experience within a firm, or people who enjoy a big status. For example, I being a general manager of a firm, I might think that I have reached this place or this status after working a couple of years. And then if an AI model suddenly is becoming my colleague or my leader, this AI model that was written by some young people sitting in a room is challenging my authority and my power, I will not accept that. However, if there is a quicker decision that needs to be taken, some decisions that have to be taken within few minutes, or they require the time is of essence, then maybe I would allow the AI to take the decision. However, if I have enough time on my hands, I would never allow the AI to take the decision. So this is very important for the managers, right? Because implementing the technology is just one aspect of that. How do you sustainably run that, right?
Hmm.
You're allowing AI agents to enter the doors of your organization, but they will have to work in some status, right? Either they'll be part of the teams, or they'll be part of entire AI teams, or they'll be part of a human AI team. So coming back to your point, that augmentation. So now, do you think augmentation is as straightforward as you think it is? No, right? So there's a lot of aspect, there's a lot of thinking that needs to be done.
Hmm.
And then who governs? What's the limit of this AI, right? How do I safeguard? What kind of data am I feeding it? Is it working online? Am I using a large language model that is being hosted at somebody else's premises, or are they being hosted in my own premises? Who gets the data out of that? Now, that is the important question. Now, imagine you're running an AI agent that is able to answer all of your financial questions. Imagine it is linked with your ERP system, and it can fetch all the data within your ERP system, and it can answer you. You start by asking, tell me what were today's sale, and it answers you absolutely correctly. Wow, good enough. Then you move on to the next question. Okay, tell me what is the salary of my general manager, or what is the salary of my managing director in the organization? Should the AI agent answer this question? Who will be responsible to put the guardrail over there? You understand?
Hmm.
How many guardrails would be there? Who's doing the governance? Do you have governance body in your organization? So these are the operational questions that you need to ask before actually taking your organization to the next level.
Hmm.
So again, as rightly pointed out, this is the entire project management, and the strategic manager needs to think all of these aspects and bring out all these cards, and then bring all these elements into play just to advance an organization from a traditional organization to a forward looking or forward thinking organization. And then finally, before moving into strategic, I would like to have some words from you.
Well, well, you have elaborated to such a level where I really find that it's very difficult to think in that manner, because I totally agree with you that the collaboration of the humans and the artificial intelligence definitely has got some its own challenges, its own limitations, and uh, the basic thing which I understood from your explanation is that it is all dependent on what you want. Again,
Exactly.
human business managers requirement, what they really want. Their organization should move on to certain directions, and to what level, and in what speed. So definitely, again, here, what I feel that human competence enhancement, of course, to that extent, if you are using augmentation, that is fair enough. And as you said very rightly, that some operations can be taken care by the robots. Yes, okay, fair enough, because if the involvement of the human beings is not required for that, naturally, it's good to have the robots there. But human competence enhancement will always remain in questions, and to what extent, how far, that will always be looked into it. And while moving on, I think this challenge will always remain there.
Absolutely. And that brings me to another concept that we use in our science, basically. So, human beings have primarily two sort of jobs that they do in the normal tasks. One is cognitive thinking that they do, or a thinking job. For example, what do I need to eat today? Do I need to go to cinema? Which movie should I watch? And then the other task is some sort of repetitive task that can easily be delegated to someone else. So should be a difference between what kind of job are you delegating to the artificial intelligence, and there's an answer to that, and there's a madness to that, and I'll explain that, of course. Imagine I am handing over the task of deciding on my behalf what to eat or which movie to watch. Now I'm becoming complacent. What I'm doing is I'm giving the job of thinking to artificial intelligence. And what does that do? There was a recent study carried out in Sweden, actually, on doctors. And the doctors were given the access to artificial intelligence in terms of diagnosis. After 6 months, they were again experimented, and they were asked some medical terminologies. And those doctors were not able to recall basically the basic medical terminologies, or they were not able to diagnose a patient just by examining them physically. Now, what happened was they had become very good at reading the output of the AI, but they themselves had lost the ability to diagnose the patients themselves. So what are we doing? Uh, what if one day suddenly there is no electricity and suddenly the AI is not working? Will the doctors be able to operate on us, or will the doctors be able to tell what has happened to us? Or are we creating a generation that is useless in the future? You understand? Without
Mm.
the help of the
Yeah,
artificial
yeah,
intelligence.
yeah.
Like, for example, in our organization, there is a rule. Anybody who's joining the organization, who's at the associate level, is not allowed to use artificial intelligence, even for
Mm.
coding. And why is
Mm.
that so? Because when they become the architects,
Mm.
they are allowed to use AI.
Mm.
However, they're smart enough to see and to tell if artificial intelligence is making wrong codes, or
Mm.
they are writing some codes that are not scalable or not sustainable. So
Mm.
just to be able to tell whether what AI has written is correct or incorrect, you need that experience, you need that understanding.
Mm.
However, if you always use artificial intelligence, you become complacent. Cognitively, you become a diminished human being. So that
Mm.
is very important over there, to create a balance,
Right.
ambidexterity of how much to use and what to use on. I myself, I have stopped writing normal emails because
Mm.
they are not very intellectual.
Mm.
However, I still read. I still
Mm.
go to articles. I still open those articles. I still listen to podcasts,
Mm.
because that is where I'm learning from. And
Mm.
again, there is an automation bias involved as well. What is automation bias is that because the AI responds so quickly and eloquently and
Mm.
in such a beautiful English, we
Mm.
tend to think that whatever it is saying,
Mm.
it must be correct.
Mm.
And 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 then there is another challenge, because right now the AI models are trained on the data that was written by human beings. Now imagine 5 years down the road, when the entire data created online would be by AI itself. And
Mm.
then the AI would be generating data based on the data that was created by AI. So that would become very interesting. And,
Yeah.
on that note, there was another article in one of the journals. I believe it was research policy. I'm not sure which journal it was. However, the journal showed the number of publications that have risen because
mm,
of the generate large language models, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
there is a direct positive relationship in the
yeah,
number of scientific publications.
yeah.
So the last point, your strategic point, the first or the second thing, it says about research and development, right?
Mm,
So again, we are in that paradox. We are producing a lot of research papers now,
mm,
but what is the quality of that research?
mm.
Is that
Agree.
incremental research?
Mm,
Are the people just changing few words or few elements and republishing papers again and again?
mm,
Just changing some concepts?
mm,
But at the same time, I'll walk you through another example of the real use cases actually. So,
mm,
so when you go to firms that develop medicines, for example, and medicines for chronic diseases,
mm,
the entire research and development time for this medicine from the time it is being made until it is in the hands of a patient, it's almost 10 to 13 years.
mm,
And artificial intelligence has actually reduced that time,
mm,
because one aspect is, of course, running simulations of genome, for example, or running
mm,
simulations of how protein would react with certain medicines. But
mm,
then there's a lot of bureaucratic work that is done just to commercialize or get the patents for that medicine. There are some legal documents that need to be read. There are a lot
mm,
of bureaucratic documents that need to be fed. There are some FDA approvals that need to be taken. So there's a lot of things that can be automated, and because
mm,
of that automation, the entire R&D time can actually be reduced.
mm,
Similarly, if we see in the military right now, the turnover time, or in fact, there was an interview being done in Ukraine, and they said that what's the turnover time for your technology now? So basically, the correspondent from the army said that as soon as the drone goes into the field,
mm,
we get the response, and the very next week we have to reiterate and produce a new version of the same drone,
mm,
because the one that is in the field is now obsolete. So that
mm,
the change in the technology is so fast now.
mm,
In
mm,
fact, one of the universities in Sweden requested that I would help them in writing the AI governance policy for the education over there. So
mm,
before doing that, what I did was I carried out an experiment within the university, and I gathered undergrad and master students over there. And then I ran an experiment on them without telling them that I'm running an experiment on them, of course, because it would kill the purpose. And
yeah,
what I did was I gave half of them the access to artificial intelligence in the first round, that is to think about an idea. And then
mm,
I gave the rest of the half of the teams access to artificial intelligence to kill the ideas.
mm,
Like in the stage gate, you have to
mm,
come up with an idea, then you have
mm,
to kill the 99 ideas, and then
mm,
take the one forward.
mm,
So how does AI help you? So what I found out through the research was most of the students were coming up with very similar sort of ideas, those who
mm,
were using AI.
mm,
And although the number of ideas was very large,
mm,
however, the quality or the depth of that ideas was very superficial.
mm,
Versus the people who were coming up and who were using their brain to come up
mm,
with the ideas, the number
mm,
of ideas were smaller. However,
mm,
they had more quality in them. But
mm,
on the contrary, when it came to killing of the ideas, then AI
mm,
was very potent at that. AI
mm,
was actually selecting very good ideas
mm,
and letting go off the ideas that would not be worth it. So, of course, again, you have to think strategically where to place it, right?
mm,
Because
mm,
because innovation, we think of innovation as just an act. However, in innovation itself, again, let's take an example of the project management. In
mm,
terms of the project management, innovation has certain areas. There are
mm,
some processes it goes through.
mm,
Innovation takes place, you come up with the ideas, you kill the ideas, again you
mm,
refine the ideas, you kill the ideas, and then
mm,
you keep on reiterating, you
mm,
keep on coming back, agile
mm,
methodologies and those methodologies that you teach,
mm,
right? So all those methodologies, and then passing through each stage or each gate. So that's the crux of it. You have to understand very smartly
Hmm.
which gate to place AI at and which gate not to place AI at.
Hmm.
Okay. So again, ROI, yes. Using it in innovation, way to use it. Again, do I need to kill the fly with a cannon? So it's a very interesting topic. But again, we have to be very much careful of how to take this entire innovation journey.
Hmm. Very right. Very right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ismail. In fact, my second question is already responded by you very effectively and very elaborately. Thank you very much. In fact, I have just recently read about that human ingenuity comprises 5 C's. That is curiosity, courage, creativity, compassion, and
Yes,
communication. And
absolutely.
these 5 C's are the unique abilities of human beings. But at the same time, if you don't use them, you kill them, because then
Yes,
you are just a statue. You are not using your humanity. So with these 5 C's, as much you use them, you make the best use of all these 5 C's to the best of your abilities. You are improving them. So that improvement, of course, dies out if you don't use them. So I think this is what you just mentioned, and thank you very much for all that clarity.
absolutely. I would just like to add or give the audience one another word for them to ponder on, and that is metacognition. And what
Uh-huh.
does that metacognition means? Metacognition uh, would largely be related with the teachings of the spiritual saints, let's say,
Hmm.
and the ability, or let's go back to Allama Iqbal, for example,
Hmm.
and the ability to critically evaluate your own self,
Hmm.
or critically evaluate yourself before speaking, or
Hmm.
critically evaluate while you're speaking. That
Hmm.
is metacognition. And
Hmm.
that is the difference between AI and human beings.
Hmm.
The ability to think and be critical of your own thinking.
Hmm.
That is metacognition. And that is the real consciousness that
Hmm.
is not present in the machines. So you're absolutely right. There's compassion, there's care, there's a lot of things in the human beings that will that for now cannot be replaced by a machine.
Hmm. Very right. Very right. That's right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ismail. You have very elaborately helped out the understanding of AI and how to make the best use and how to make advancement. With this, I think I have already exhausted with the questions. And finally, I would just like to thank you for Dr. Ismail and the prospective participants for their learning interest and for their patience who listens to us. And I'm sure they would have loved to learn from you and to learn the ideas you have just shared with them. Finally, if you need to add something to it, please feel free.
It was absolute pleasure to be here with you, and not only me speaking. Basically, I always try to learn something wherever I go, and that is always my motive. And of course, I thoroughly enjoyed, and inshallah, let's stay connected. And if anybody from the viewers or your listeners have any questions, or if they want to get connected, let's get connected via LinkedIn, and let's be part of this strategist community and stay connected, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with this, I'm just going to close it. And before I close, let me briefly explain what services PM Strategies Corner offer to their business leaders and business managers for their advancement in the business. Essentially, we help the organizations to move in their strategic directions and to align their endeavors in that line. And for that, we offer them the services of diagnostic assessment, primarily for aesthetic alignment. And in the present time, the challenge is with the volatility. So we are offering services on mastering over volatility. So in that perspective, We are working on these areas, and the three areas, basically, primarily three basic areas are identified. Those are resilience, strategy shifting, and beyond agility. Agility paradox. So in these three areas, we are working and to offer our services for building organizational competence and to check their resilience health. So that is the basic area that we offer services. And for that, we also help the organizations to manage their change. And for that, we help them to build their change muscles, which are basically the basic requirements for building a resilience. And cultural support, because without supportive culture, you just cannot think of moving to their required strict directions as well as building resilience. So these are the basic areas where we deal with and we offer services. And with this, thank you.